Welcome to another edition of Pioneer Valley Life. I'm James Sullivan. We're here in the studios of Easthampton's E-Media in the Eastworks building. Stop by sometime if you want to see the studio, and if you want to have your own show, you could be sitting here on this stage someday as well, having your own show. So today's guest for Pioneer Valley Life is Nan Parati. Welcome, Nan.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Nan you're still a resident of Ashfield.
I am indeed. A happy one.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great little town.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah. And you were saying you've been there about 20 years?
Exactly 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. And I know you came up after Katrina. You used to live in New Orleans.
It wasn't actually after Katrina. I came up, had been living in New Orleans for 25 years.
Yeah.
And I'm the sign writer for the Jazz Fest in New Orleans, as well as other festivals. And Jim Olson of the Green River Festival asked me in 2005 to come up to make signs for Green River.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I had a friend who lived in Ashfield, and I had not really been here before, but I visited her once before. I didn't really know where I was coming.
Yeah.
And I said, "Is Ashfield near Greenfield?" "Yes, it is." "Great. I'll stay with her." So I stayed with her and was working on the festival, staying in Ashfield, looking around, going, "Wow, what a cool town.
Yeah.
What a cool town."
Yeah.
And I actually said out loud, wouldn't it be fun if for some reason I couldn't go back to New Orleans right away? God heard that, sent out the runner, got a hurricane named Katrina.
Yeah.
And so while I was here, Katrina hit New Orleans and took out my house. I had 8 feet of water.
Ooh.
Everything was gone.
Yeah.
And so, just as my wish happened,
yeah.
I got to stay in Ashfield.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you at one time you owned Elmers store, correct?
I did in
How
Ashfield.
soon after you came up did that happen?
Well, that was also the interesting thing. That was one of the things that was grabbing me and pulling me in. I love community.
Yeah.
And I've done, and I'm not at all complaining about having this fabulous life in the world of entertainment, festivals, music, touring with Jimmy Buffett, all those worlds. I'm not at all complaining, but that world goes so fast, and it's very impersonal, where you design, you build, you create, throw it all away.
Yeah.
You design, you build, create, throw it all away. And then you're meeting another group of people who want, and it's fun, but there was never community anywhere, really, serious community.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Ashfield was drawing me into that, and there was this little building that was sitting empty, which would have been Elmers' store for all those years. And like I said, it was empty, and I would just go sit on the porch and look in and think about, wouldn't it be fun?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be fun to be here and I didn't even know what I was going to do with it. If I even, like I said, it was still a pipe dream at that time. It had nothing to do with anything in the world. And then Katrina happened. I found out that I really had truly lost my house in New Orleans. Everything I had was gone. All of New Orleans was gone at that point.
Yeah.
And I realized, this is real. This is real. I could actually stay here. And it was just, I was out of my mind. I mean, truly out of my mind. When you lose everything you own, you're out of your mind anyway. But I started asking around, and people were not excited at all about me being there. "You were from away. You're not from here. You're not one of us. And you're from the South, huh?" In fact, at one point, I heard this story about somebody had used the word y'all, which I say all the time, and somebody else had said, "Y'all lost the war." Oh, sorry. So anyway, but this thing kind of grew.
Yeah.
And I finally took it on and said, I want to do this, but I didn't know what it should be. So I put a survey in the Ashfield News, and I asked, because Ashfield News comes out once a month, and I said, what would you like this place to be? And overwhelmingly, people said a breakfast restaurant. And I don't cook. I don't have anything in the world to do with food because, I just don't cook. I eat out, or I eat, TV dinners or something. But that's what people said they really wanted. And I thought, well, okay. So I found a cook, and I found another cook, and then we built it from nowhere into that.
Yeah, no, it was a great place.
It was wonderful. I really miss it a lot. It was fun.
Yeah, I used to go there, for different times of the day.
I remember.
It had the little bar, it had the restaurant, and everything. And you went to a couple musical events there, and it was a great little place.
Thank you.
But at one point you did sell it.
I did sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What everything in my life always comes around just be like, I don't really make plans. Life comes to me and tells me what to do in a way. And my dad was very sick in 2017. I mean, he was 90 years old. He was on his way out, and we all knew that. And I was taking care of him as well as running the restaurant. And I had an inn at that point too. I built another place and turned it into an inn. So I was doing all this work and taking care of my dad, who was so important to me. And some people came and wanted to buy the whole thing. And I just kept saying, no, I'm taking care of my dad, leave me alone. And then I figured, and it took, a few more months, and then he died in September. and 2017 that was, and I thought, okay, that's the end of that. And then they came back and still wanted to buy it. I have an old friend who used to be a professor of business at Tulane University in New Orleans, and I called him and I said, some people want to buy my restaurant and I don't really want to sell it, so I'm just calling you to see what should I do. And he said, here's the rule in restaurants. If somebody wants to buy your restaurant, you sell it, because you never know if you'll ever be able to again. They're hard to sell. So I said, okay.
Yeah.
So I turned around and literally said, okay, and I sold it to them. And that was how I got out of the restaurant business.
Yeah.
Again, totally randomly.
Right. So they bought the restaurant and the inn,
And they bought both of them. Then they turned around and sold the inn to somebody else.
Right, right. And so these days, I've seen the picture, I drove through there just recently, it's called the
Wicked Good Cafe. Well, what happened was the people who bought it ended up just not doing it. A couple of years later, they decided that really wasn't their thing anymore. And so the building got sold back to the bank.
Yeah.
And a group in Ashfield got together and bought the building and decided we want to save this building. This is 1835, it was built. We want to save this building. How are we going to do this? And they asked me to be on that board. And so we raised, I'm really proud of this, over $300,000 in like 3 months to buy the building in a town of 1,700 people.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was really, really exciting. So we bought the building back, and they've turned it now into Elmers Community Center. They didn't really, because they wanted to just preserve it, and that's the great thing about it is now, I think part of a nonprofit, so they can keep it into, it is part of this nonprofit. And they were able to raise money. They've done a whole bunch of work on the building. So when I look back now, I miss the old days of running Elmers so much. It was so much fun. There was a lot of stress to it, but in the big picture, I loved it. But I could never have put the money into it that they've been able to put, because they're a nonprofit. They were able to get grants. And the building really needed it. I sold it, right before COVID. What would have happened during COVID? It would have been really scary during that time. So I'm actually, in the big picture, really lucky that it worked out the way it did. And so I was part of that board for a long time. And then they kind of decided if we could find a restaurant-type entrepreneur to open a restaurant again, that'd be cool. And I met this young woman, Allison Nottingham is her name. And she really did not wasn't thinking she wanted to own a restaurant. She wanted to be a baker, and she's a fabulous baker. And at the time, so after going back to the original part of the story, like I said, I made the signs and I was the art director for the Jazz Fest in New Orleans. I had given that job to my second in command when I ended up owning this. So I'd go down to New Orleans to work on Jazz Fest, but I wasn't there for the whole time. And then in 2022, he decided he wanted to retire. That was right after I'd sold Elmers, so I got my job back in New Orleans, Jazz Fest. And so I'm there now, January through the beginning of May, which is quite a while. And so so anyway, come back to this part of the story. Allison and I talked. I was so excited about doing this again. Oh yeah, this would be great. I'll help you. This would be so cool. I just want to bake. That's cool. I want to do everything else. This is great. Oh wait, I have a job in New Orleans. I mean, I knew I did, but I'm always just out of my mind when I, get excited about something. So, but I thought, oh sure, I'll have plenty of time. We can talk on the phone all the time. I'll help, and then I'll come back by the time we open. It'll be great. Well, I was working like crazy in New Orleans. I did not have time to help her out at all, poor Allison. But she and her partner Luke started how they want it to be, and it's a new generation. It's 7 years down the road now, and so they have opened this really fabulous cafe called Wicked Good Cafe. The Elmers board didn't want the same name as Elmers because they didn't want there to be confusion and stuff like that. So it's Wicked Good Cafe, plus they wanted it to be different from Elmers as well. And it's working out really well. It's a great little cafe, and I don't know if you've been there this time,
yet,
but
no.
It's great. People are enjoying it. It's fun. Allison is a fabulous baker, and every once in a while she'll say, all I wanted to do is bake. I know, Allison, I'm sorry. And I do help out now. A friend of mine said, I'm more like the grandmother of the place now, so I offer advice if advice is wanted, and I help out, but I'm not, directly every day involved in it, and letting the
So it is a restaurant, but it's also somewhat of a community center.
It is also. So people have it for different events at night and stuff like that. Yeah. We're going to do Halloween. So we're going to do Halloween this week.
Someone I know, I think, has an art exhibit there, Randy Gobet.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I like
great.
his work.
Yeah. No, Ashfield is a great little town.
It's an amazing
it
little
really
town.
Is.
It really is, yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm so, that's how I knew it's been exactly 20 years since I got here, because I have done so much thinking about that this year, the 20th anniversary of Katrina,
Right.
and realized how grateful I am for myself. And I know so
Yeah.
many people had horrible, horrible, horrible experiences with
Right.
Katrina. But in my own little personal world, I never could have projected how it would have ended up. And here we are 20 years later, and I'm so happy that I live here. I identify much more now with Ashfield than I do actually with New Orleans anymore, even though I'm still there 5 months out of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed a lot after Katrina. It changed, and I feel just stronger here. It was also funny, like the day after I sold Elmers, like I said, there was a group that didn't really accept me because I wasn't from here, and I respected that. I loved to listen to their stories. I would go listen to their stories. They always sit together at the little convenience store neighbors, and they tell stories, and I used to like to go sit and listen to them and ask questions and get all the stories. And I really liked them, but I understood and I respected the fact that, nope, that's not Elmers. It's, you're not only from away, but what was it they called me? Earthy Crunchy. I was Earthy Crunchy too. That was also not good. So the day after I sold Elmers, I went to neighbors for something, and one of them said, "Come here." And I said, "Me?" And he said, "Yeah." And I walked over, and he said, "You tried. You tried. You did a good job, and you're one of us now."
Oh.
So I got accepted. It only took me 13 years. I think that's pretty good in New England.
Yeah. No, that's a typical New England experience.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. But as you mentioned, briefly, your major profession, if there is to call it that, is you make signs. And you've been making signs for the Jazz and Heritage Festival for quite a while.
41 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And you have this totally unique style.
Thank you.
And I'm sure, you see them around, like you say, down there you do it, but around here, at Bombix, they have your signs out
Right.
there when they have events.
Right.
And the Green River Fest and things like that, I was going to mention you have a website called Nanlandia.
Yeah, nanlandia.com.
Yeah. And if people want to go there, they can see examples and some stories
Right.
about how you make your signs and the uniqueness to them, because every time you ride around, and if you see one, you go, "Oh, that's a Nan Parati." It's almost like being in the world. It's like that's a Picasso, or that's
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it is. It's a very distinctive style. And
Well, actually, interestingly, the other day I was walking down the street in Ashfield, and I heard somebody say, "There's Nan," and I looked up, and two people came out of Elmers, and they had just moved here from New Orleans, and so
wow.
they knew my signs from New Orleans, and then had all of a sudden seen him up here, and were like, "Whoa, where is she?
Yeah,
Where is
yeah,
she?" It was just
yeah.
really kind of funny. It was cool.
Right.
Yeah, who would ever think that you could become famous for, writing signs?
Yeah.
That started out again as a.
But you have a unique style, and there was
Yeah.
somebody there, even to the point of like you mentioned in an interview that I was there about copywriting
Yeah.
your style.
Yeah.
You don't want other people to copy it.
It's mine.
Because, it's yours.
Right. I mean, I respect what other people do.
Yeah.
There's a sign writer in New Orleans who writes frequently. When he's famous for his signs that say, "Be nice or leave," and people often ask me to write that, and I say, "Nope, that's Dr. Bob. That's not me." So
Yeah.
I respect other artists, and I would like it if they respected me too,
Right.
not to steal my stuff.
And how did you come up with this style?
Oh, it's just evolution.
Yeah.
The way the whole thing happened was my dad was a graphic designer and an artist, and he worked out of our house when we had 4 kids, and so I just sat on his floor all the time in his office and his studio, listening and learning, and he would show me how to do things, as a kid. And I remember even too when we were little children riding around. My parents were hippies. We had a Volkswagen van with a big piece symbol on it, and riding around. And my dad would say, "All right, kids, look at that billboard. Is that a good billboard or a bad billboard?" "That's a bad billboard, Daddy." Why? Not enough contrast. Too difficult to read. Too many words. Whatever it was. We learned that stuff from our dad.
Yeah.
And so I knew that. I'd never done it professionally. And then when I was in New Orleans, it was 1983. And I got a job at a grocery store, working in the the produce department. And I was really bad at it because I love talking to people and doing everything else, but stacking. I'm not doing that. I mean, I was supposed to, and I did do it, but I was just bad at it. So I got fired about 2 weeks in. And then the day he fired me, I said, "But you need somebody in cheese, and I'm really good at talking to people." So I'm not 20 years old. So can I work in the cheese department? okay, all right, you can work in cheese. So I worked in cheese for 2 weeks and I got fired again. And the day I got fired again for being just stupid and not working very well. But that day, the sign writer was leaving. And I said, oh, that's my real job, I promise, let me write the signs, please, please. I know how to do it. I promise. It's your last chance. So I started writing the signs, and that worked. That because I knew how to do that, and that was what I, ended up painting a mural on the wall, and all kinds of stuff like that. Art was my thing, and plus I was really goofy. I'm goofy as heck, and so there was one in particular. For example, I was always doing puns and stuff. Like for day old bread, I had Harry Belafonte playing day old bread, things like that. I was goofy, but anyway, that took off. And then a couple years later, the Jazz Fest came over. New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival said we need some signs, and they never had official, real signs beyond painted banners before. They never had signs. Can you do that? And I said, I can do that. So I did it that first year, and then they called me back the next year. And so the first year it was just stage signs and names of the artists. The next year they said, can you do parking signs? And I can do the parking signs. So I started doing this. And so that just built, that just grew. And I look at the ones I did in the beginning, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. That was dumb looking. And even, over the years, I can see where the evolution, how it's worked. And so it was just completely evolution. I'm fast at it. I'm really fast. People say, how long does it take you to write a sign? And I say, 40 years and 3 seconds. Not really 3 seconds, but I'm fast because I've been doing it for 40 years. So I can do it really
so
it's
quickly. Kind of like second nature. Exactly, right.
I don't need, for the most part, sometimes I do, but mostly I don't lay things out. I just write them because my brain does the math in my head. And
And you came up, did you start off with the yellow background?
No, that also. But the coroplast is what I used for those signs, and there was no coroplast in those days. There was, in fact, I remember writing signs on paper and then, coating them, anything I could do to make them strong enough to stand up. We didn't even have the serious poster board that's now and stuff, and I just remember, it was funny. Yeah.
And you make thousands of signs each year.
For Jazz Fest in New Orleans alone, I handwrite over 3,000 every year.
Wow.
Yeah, and then so that's just Jazz Fest. And then it really, the side business of me doing it, not just for festivals, really took off during COVID because people, there were no festivals, there were no gatherings, and people wanted to celebrate at home somehow. And so they just started finding me. And, I know there was a woman, that's part of the story too, there was a woman in New Orleans, she has a store called Flirty Girl, F-L-E-U-R-T-Y, Flirty Girl.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody asked me to make a sign for her, so I made that, and they took it to her. And the next day she came and found me and said, all right, here's what we're going to do. And she kind of got all that going. She said, I'm going to start, I'll sell the signs through my store, I'll take the orders, and I'll pay you this much, which was more than I was charging already, and which was fabulous. So that got started, and so it really took off through Flirty Girl, and now I get orders constantly, all the time, year-round.
So you'll special orders.
Basically.
You have
exactly.
your regular business at the festivals, but you'll make a sign for anything. If somebody comes to you and says, I want a sign for a wedding. Or,
exactly.
Or
I do a lot of
anything,
wedding
any
signs.
kind of event. And so they're not all the kind that stick in the ground.
Right, all kinds of different ones.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll do things where if somebody wants something for a T-shirt or something, then I'll do it, I'll turn it into a file and, they can print it on a shirt and things like that too.
That's great, yeah.
But I have rules. No politics. I won't do politics for obvious reasons. Won't do anybody else's work, like I was just saying. And I also won't do unintentional bad grammar. Like I won't put an apostrophe if it's a plural S, because I know I was at one point an English teacher, so I don't do that. The grammar's got to be. I'll do dialect, but not.
I see what you mean.
I'll do intentional stuff, but not unintentional. Just bad grammar.
No, if it's a spoken word in some area.
Right.
That everybody recognizes.
I'll do that. Do what you want to, that kind of thing. That's fine. But I won't put, like I said, I won't put an apostrophe S if it's a plural.
Right. And somebody said, she made a mistake.
Right. One of my favorite stories was back when I was working at that grocery store. Somebody else, right before I was making the signs, and somebody else had made a sign that said bagels with an apostrophe, 50 cents. And I said, there should not be an apostrophe because it's a plural. I mean, it's a possessive, not a plural. I mean, you know what I'm saying. There shouldn't be no apostrophe there, whatever I said. And the guy said, I went to Catholic school. We didn't have bagels, which I thought was hilarious.
Right. Yeah. So you're that. You know, I have some friends from Northampton, and they're basically in New Orleans about the same period of time you are. They go down. This year they're going down on December 29th. They own a couple of condos on Frenchman Street, and they're there for the music. They stay until they come back after the second weekend of the festival.
Jazz Fest,
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
And they just really love it. They, you know, he can't stand the hot weather, so that's why he's up here. You know, they have a house in Northampton, so they go back and forth. But
I like the hot weather. I'm not. I mean, I can.
you can do it.
Yeah, I'm from the South.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
I still get cold up here.
yeah. Well, I get cold enough from up here. So.
Yeah.
So, so Nanlandia, let's talk about that a little bit. That's a project, and you know, so you do have a gallery of some pictures of your signs. So I grabbed a couple off of there that we'll show during this show. You know, they'll put them in, you know, to show examples of what your work looks like. But you know, what are you actually hoping to do with that website?
With Nanlandia. What Nanlandia is actually, so I've got actually two websites. There's nanparati.com and then nanlandia.com. And nanlandia.com is a spin-off of, I used to do a radio show on Wednesdays on WHMP. Buzz Eisenberg has the show. And so on Wednesdays I would go in and I would do my own little, he would, you know, interview me, or we'd talk about all kinds of interesting things. And I did that for a few years and had a great time doing it. And then finally WHMP moved the time of the show to the morning, and I couldn't do that anymore because all the other work I do, I couldn't do mornings. So I was kind of saying, oh, darn it. And I was in New Orleans at the time, and I was talking to a friend of mine who is a movie producer and all kind of producer. And she works on movies primarily. And I said, oh, I'm losing my radio show. It makes me sad. And she said, hey, I know, let's do a podcast.
Yeah.
So she then produces this podcast that we do together. And I get to do the fun part. I get to interview the people. And then she does all the other stuff. She does all the editing and everything else.
Yeah, great.
And so we get to do... We just have a great time doing this podcast. I haven't been able to do it lately because when I've been working on Jazz Fest, she's always had movies. So we did a whole bunch of them in the beginning, and then we haven't had as much time to do them, but we want to keep going because it's really fun.
And do you go into a studio? Do you do them from home?
Well, she does it. Like I said, she's a producer, so she has access to studios.
She has all the equipment, yeah. Same way they do here.
Yeah, right.
At eMedia, they have a podcast studio here. And
I'm going to get her to move up here and we can continue.
Right.
So that's really fun. That's really fun. In fact, one of my favorite possibilities, I worked the Newport Jazz and Folk Festivals, and a few years ago I was there, and the Muppets were there. They were performing. And they, oddly enough, knew my signs and were excited about me, and I'm very excited about the Muppets. And so we started, talking, and I said, hey, I've got a podcast. And we talked for a long time, me and all these guys. And even though I said me and all these guys, I'm still an English major. All those guys and I talked for a long time. And I told them about Nanlandia, and they said, can we be on it? And I said, yes, absolutely. And I said, would you do it as yourselves or as your characters? And they said, well, it depends on, we'll just have to see who shows up. So we haven't been able to do it yet because, again, we've been so busy we haven't been able, but I'm really looking forward to that one. That'll be a lot of fun. So much fun.
No, it's an exciting development in media. Podcasts. Everybody's doing a podcast of some kind
I know
these
everybody
days,
is, right, it's true.
And you can you subscribe to them or whatever, and they're out there. There's thousands of them, and it's relatively easy to do. If you have
an editor. You need an editor. There's a lot that it takes a lot of time.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what Nanlandia has that on
right.
It has a gallery of some of your signs. I'm trying to remember some of the other stuff that's on there.
I think Nanlandia primarily is just the podcast, and then the other one, nanparati.com, has has more of the other the signage sort of stuff. And I think that's really mostly what I'm kind of known for. But you do write a column occasionally for the Greenfield Recorder. I do. Yep. Just last week.
Yeah. And that could be on any subject.
That's
whatever
right.
comes into
whatever
your mind,
is in my head.
You pick the subject.
This last one that just ran last week was about when I take walks in the fall, which I love to do, of course. And I started looking around at trees, and I was wondering, I wonder what trees think about in the fall. Are they thinking, oh my gosh, I am so glad I finally get to get rid of all these heavy leaves? Or are they thinking, oh my God, we're going to the freezing time. I hate this part.
Yeah.
Do they challenge each other to try to look better than the other one? How do they decide what color they're going to be that year?
Yeah.
You know, just all of the stuff that they come up. Orange, I didn't put this, I thought of this later on after I wrote the column. Why orange? Why do they always go with orange with the pumpkins? And are they trying to look like pumpkins? Or is that the pumpkins follow them? You know, just all of this stuff. And so that column was all about what do trees think about in fall.
Right, right. You've talked to them.
Yeah, well, they inspired me.
Yeah.
I did thank the trees that inspired me at the end of the column.
Yeah. And how's the foliage been in Ashfield this year?
Oh, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Really pretty.
Good, good, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, that's what, like I said, what inspired me. And then, of course, I really took a sharp interest in them after they started talking to me.
Right. Yeah. And so you're always trying to come up with creative ideas, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of come to me. It's a fun life. It's a very fun life where the creativity comes to me. I love being creative.
Yeah. And, you know, the Pioneer Valley is a very creative place.
Oh, it is,
There's
absolutely.
There's creative people, but there's also a lot of outlets for the creativity as well, which is good.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's what draws a lot of people to the area. And, you know, or they came to college here and they stick around because of the area.
And it's amazing how many people you read about or you come across in some sort of history book that, you know, all the people who have come here who have helped shape this area, people who shaped the entire nation. It's really amazing.
Right. Yeah, I first came here. I went to UMass Amherst and started in 1963. And, you know, I've been here off and on. I haven't been here the whole time, but I end up back here. But every winter, I always question why.
You can come down to New Orleans for the winter.
Yeah, I am going to go down. Paul has invited me down.
Oh, good.
I'm going to go towards the about 8 days from the end of January to the beginning of February.
Oh, good.
And because he's picked out some specific parades that he wants me to
I was
be
going to
there
say,
for.
I don't know when Mardi Gras is this year. Do you know when Mardi Gras is?
I think it's about the 18th or something
Of
like that.
of February?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So it's early
So
this year.
he wants me to be there for the Barkus parade.
Yeah, be
and
there for Barkus,
the Crew de Vue.
Yeah.
And you know, some of the good ones.
That'll be great fun.
Yeah. I haven't been there. You know, I've been there before, but I haven't been in quite a few years.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it, getting down there at that time of the year.
Yeah, that'll be great fun.
Yeah.
Really fun.
And he, you know, he's so into the music and food. He and his wife, they go out to eat all the time. You know,
Yeah.
they can afford to do it.
Yeah.
They're having a great time in New Orleans.
That's
she is
great.
she retired they both retired as teachers, and she's taken up not a hobby per se, but a photography. And so she has some
cool.
great pictures from the parades,
Yeah.
and the Indians, you know, with the dresses that they, you know, the costumes and stuff. So
Right.
she has a lot of great photos from New Orleans.
It's a great place for photography, boy.
Yeah, some of which I guess are on display at that Gombo restaurant in
Yeah,
Northampton.
in fact, at Gumbo, they have a picture, because I was there and I was looking around, and one of the pictures of my old house in New Orleans.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the picture's not just of the house, it's of a parade, a second line, and but it's going right down the street, and the house in the background is mine. The big house right in front, right behind him is my old house, which is really cool. But I lived in a very, very cool neighborhood. I lived in the Treme back in the day,
Yeah.
And that was before Katrina, and it was just an amazing
I'll
time.
bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bet. Yeah. Yeah, so that's, you know, New Orleans is a very unique place. I don't think there's any place like it in the United States, for
Right,
sure.
that is very true.
And that's what, you know, makes it so interesting. And
Well, that's how I got there. I went down there, and it was in 1980, and I got off the train. I was born in North Carolina, grew up in North Carolina, and went down to New Orleans just to visit a friend for a couple of days. And I got off the train and said, "Oh, this is my place."
Yeah.
And I really and truly had not left the train station yet before I decided I'm moving here. I'm staying here.
Yeah, so this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how I got there. So I moved now twice accidentally in life. Once to New Orleans and once to Ashfield.
Yeah. That's pretty good. That's two good choices.
I
It's
know
come
it.
your way.
I know it.
Well, I think, Nan, you know, we've been talking for a while, and you know, hopefully people will get an understanding of who you are or what you do, and you know, they can go to the websites and find out more. And if they need somebody to make a sign,
they can go to nanlandia.com or nanparati.com and find me.
Right. Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much for being my guest.
Thank you so much. This is great
thank you.
fun.
Sure.
I
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Okay.